The Belgian Malinois launched forward like a missile of muscle and fury. 90 pounds of starved rage, black coat absorbing light. One milky scar slicing across its dead left eye. Shadow hadn't eaten in 72 hours. Maya Chen didn't run. 5'2", 20 years old, surrounded by 8 soldiers laughing through chain-link fence. "Die now, bitch," the words echoed off concrete. Fort Braxton Military Canine Training Center, North Carolina, 6:47 a.m. The dog's jaws opened wide. But that was 12 hours ago. Let me take you back to where this nightmare truly began. Subscribe now and stay until the end. Comment your city below. Let me see how far this story travels. The bus dropped Maya Chen at the main gate of Fort Braxton at exactly 500 hours. She stood there for a moment, watching the tail lights disappear into the pre-dawn darkness. The weight of her pack pressed familiar against her shoulders. 62 pounds. Everything she owned in this world. Everything except the truth. The guard booth lit up as she approached. A sergeant stepped out, coffee steam rising from his mug eyes, already dismissing her before she reached the window. "Lost, sweetheart?" Maya kept her voice flat. "Petty Officer 3rd Class Maya Chen, reporting for Canine Handler assignment." The sergeant laughed. Actually laughed. "You, a Canine Handler. Check your roster." He set down his coffee, still smirking, and typed something into his computer. The smirk died slowly. "Well, I'll be damned." He looked at her again, really looked this time. "You're the replacement for Henderson." "I don't know who Henderson is." Henderson was. Dog tore his throat out 3 weeks ago." The sergeant handed back her credentials. "Building 7. Kennels are out back. Master Sergeant Kane is expecting you." He paused. "Good luck, sweetheart. You're gonna need it." Maya took her papers and walked through the gate. She didn't look back. She'd learned a long time ago that looking back only slowed you down. The base sprawled before her in the gray morning light. Rows of identical buildings, parade grounds still wet with dew, the distant sound of dogs barking. Always dogs barking. She'd grown up with that sound. Her father used to say, dogs never lied. They couldn't hide their emotions, couldn't fake loyalty, couldn't pretend to love you when they didn't. Dogs were honest in ways humans had forgotten how to be. Her father had been honest too. That's why they killed him. Building 7 sat at the eastern edge of the compound, isolated from everything else. Maya could hear the dogs before she saw them, barking, howling the primal sounds of animals bred for war. She pushed through the main door and stopped. The smell hit her first. Dog concrete disinfectant, and underneath it all, something else. Something she recognized from her childhood, controlled aggression. 12 kennels lined the corridor, 6 on each side. Belgian Malinois, mostly with a few German shepherds. All of them alert. All of them watching her. "Fresh meat." Maya turned toward the voice. The man who emerged from the office was built like a tank. 6'3", maybe 250, all of it muscle, hardened by decades of punishment. His face looked like someone had carved it from stone and then used it for target practice. Master Sergeant Victor Kane. Maya had memorized his file. 28 years in special operations, 6 combat deployments, 14 commendations, and 1 sealed investigation from 12 years ago, the same year her parents died. "Sir?" Maya's voice stayed neutral. "Petty Officer 3rd Class Chen reporting as ordered." Kane looked her up and down like she was livestock at auction. "Chen." He said the name slowly, testing it. Any relation to David Chen? Maya's heart rate spiked, but her face showed nothing. He was my father, sir. Something flickered across Kane's features, gone before she could identify it. David Chen's daughter. Kane crossed his arms. Didn't know he had a kid in the service. He's dead, sir. I know. Training accident in Syria, 12 years ago. That's what the report says. Kane's eyes narrowed. You got something else to say, petty officer? Maya held his stare. No, sir. Just stating facts. The silence between them stretched like a wire pulled too tight. Maya could feel it humming with tension. Finally, Kane turned and started walking down the corridor. Follow me. I'll show you what you're working with. They passed kennel after kennel, dogs lunging against chain link, barking, snarling, showing teeth. Kane didn't even glance at them. These animals are weapons, he said without turning around. Nothing more, nothing less. You give them a command, they obey, or they get corrected. That's how it works here. Corrected how? Kane stopped walking. Turned slowly. That's above your pay grade, Chen. You're here to learn my methods, not question them. My father taught me different methods. Your father's dead. Kane's voice went cold. His methods died with him in Syria. We do things my way here. You got a problem with that, there's the gate. Maya said nothing. Kane smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Smart girl. Keep that mouth shut and you might survive the week. He continued walking. Maya followed. At the end of the corridor, separated from the other kennels by 20 feet of empty space, sat a single cage. Reinforced steel instead of chain link. Warning signs plastered across every surface. Danger. Extreme caution. Authorized personnel only. The dog inside didn't bark, didn't growl, didn't move. It just sat there watching Maya approach with one good eye and one scarred socket. Black coat so dark it seemed to swallow light. 90 pounds of coiled muscle and barely contained violence. That's Shadow, Kane said. Meanest son of a bitch we've ever produced. Killed one handler, hospitalized 4 more. Command wants him put down, but he's got the best nose in the program. Finds explosives other dogs miss by a mile. Maya stepped closer to the cage. Chen, what the hell are you doing? She ignored Kane. Her attention was locked on the dog. Shadow didn't react like the others had. No barking, no lunging, no display of aggression. He just watched her with that single pale eye. Maya had seen that look before. In the mirror. Hello, boy, she said softly. Shadow's ear twitched. Just barely. Chen, step back from that cage right now. What happened to his eye? None of your goddamn business. Now step back before... Who trained him originally? Kane grabbed her shoulder and yanked her away from the cage. I said step back. His grip was iron. That dog is not your concern. You'll be working with the standard units. Shadow was my parents' dog. Kane's grip loosened. What did you say? Maya pulled free and faced him. Shadow. Original designation K9 Sierra 77. Assigned to the Chen handler team in 2011. Reported killed in the same incident that took my parents. Except here he is. Alive. Kane's face had gone pale. How the hell do you know that? Because I have my father's journal, sir. Maya's voice stayed level, but her eyes burned. And I read it every single night. I know every dog he ever trained, every mission he ever ran, every name he ever wrote down. She stepped closer to Kane. I know things, Master Sergeant. Things that would make a lot of people very uncomfortable. So you can try to wash me out. You can try to scare me off. But I'm not leaving until I find out what really happened in Syria 12 years ago. Kane stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You've got guts, Chen. I'll give you that. Your father had guts too. He leaned in close. Look where it got him. He turned and walked away. Orientation is at 0700. Don't be late. Maya watched him go. Then she turned back to Shadow's cage. The dog was standing now, pressed against the bars, nose twitching, testing her scent. I know you remember them, Maya whispered. I know you saw what happened. And I'm going to find out, I promise. Shadow whined, soft, almost inaudible. The first non-aggressive sound he'd made in 12 years. The barracks were exactly what Maya expected. 12 bunks, all occupied except one. The one in the corner farthest from the door next to the bathroom. The worst spot in the room. She dropped her pack on the thin mattress and started unpacking. Around her, other soldiers watched. Some curious, some hostile. Most somewhere in between. Holy shit, they actually sent us a girl. Maya didn't turn around. Yo, China doll, I'm talking to you. She kept unpacking. Heavy footsteps approached. A hand grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. Specialist Ryan Harker stood 6 inches from her face. 24 years old, corn-fed Iowa farm boy shoulders like a linebacker brain, like a chicken nugget. Didn't you hear me? I heard you. Then answer when I'm talking to you. Maya looked at the hand on her shoulder, then back at Harker's face. Remove your hand, specialist. Harker laughed. Behind him, 3 other soldiers gathered. His crew. Or what you gonna report me? Cry to the sergeant. Or I'll remove it for you. The laughter died. Harker's grip tightened. Listen here, you little... Maya moved. Her hand shot up, grabbed his wrist, twisted. Harker's elbow locked. One more degree of pressure and it would snap. I said remove it. Harker's face went red with pain and humiliation. His friend stepped forward. Touch me and I break his arm, Maya said calmly. Then I start on the rest of you. Your choice. Nobody moved. Let him go, Chen. The new voice came from the doorway. Maya turned her head slightly. A young woman stood there. Short blonde hair, sharp features, staff sergeant stripes on her sleeve. Her name tape read Torres. I said let him go. Maya released Harker's wrist. He stumbled back, rubbing his arm, face twisted with rage. This isn't over, bitch. Shut up, Harker. Torres stepped into the room. You started it, she finished it. Now get out of here before I write you up. Harker glared at Maya, then at Torres. Finally, he spat on the floor and walked out, his crew following. Torres waited until they were gone, then turned to Maya. You know you just made enemies right. I've had enemies before. Not like these. Torres sat on the bunk across from Maya's. Kane's boys, they run this unit. Anyone who doesn't fall in line gets washed out. Or worse. Worse how? Torres didn't answer directly. Henderson, the handler before you. He started asking questions. About the training methods, the dogs, the way things work around here. And 3 weeks ago, Shadow tore his throat out. At least that's the official story. Maya sat down slowly. What's the unofficial story? Torres glanced at the door, made sure it was closed. Henderson found something. Records files, I don't know exactly. But he was scared. Really scared. Told me someone was running an operation through the K9 program. Smuggling something. Using the dogs. Using them how dogs go out on missions, dogs come back. Who's gonna search a military working dog? Torres shook her head. Henderson was going to report it. Next day they put him in Shadow's cage. Alone. No backup. Called it a training exercise. Maya's blood went cold. They murdered him. I can't prove anything. Neither could he. That's why he's dead. Torres stood up. Look, Chen, I don't know why you're here. I don't know what you think you're going to find. But whatever it is, it's not worth your life. These people don't play games. They put Henderson in that cage knowing exactly what would happen. She walked to the door, paused. And tomorrow morning, Kane's putting you in there too. Maya found the memorial garden at the western edge of the compound. A small space carefully maintained with bronze plaques set into a stone wall. Names and dates, handlers who died in service. Her parents weren't listed. Of course they weren't. They died in Syria. Different command, different memorial, different lies. Beautiful, isn't it? Maya spun around. The old man sat in a wheelchair beneath a twisted oak tree. 70 years old, at least silver hair, cropped military short face, weathered by decades of sun and war. His legs were wrapped in a blanket, motionless. I'm sorry I didn't see you there. Nobody ever does. The old man smiled. That's how I like it. Easier to watch when people don't know they're being watched. He rolled his wheelchair forward into a patch of morning light. Sergeant Major Thomas Wheeler, retired, but everyone calls me Ghost. Maya's breath caught. Ghost Wheeler, you were your father's mentor, yes. The old man's eyes, sharp despite his age, studied her face. You look just like your mother. Same eyes, same stubborn chin, same way of standing like you're ready to fight the whole world. You knew them. Knew them, I trained them. Ghost gestured to the memorial wall. I trained half the names on that wall. Best handlers this program ever produced, until someone started killing them. Maya sat on the bench across from him. Kane said my parents died in a training accident. Kane says a lot of things. Ghost's voice hardened. Most of them lies. Your parents didn't die in Syria, child. They were murdered. Right here. On this base. And the men who killed them. He stopped. His eyes had moved to something over Maya's shoulder. We'll talk later. Someone's coming. Maya turned. Kane was walking across the compound toward them, 2 soldiers flanking him. Chen, what the hell are you doing out here? She stood. Just getting some air, sir. Airtime is over. Orientation starts in 10 minutes. Kane looked at Ghost with barely concealed contempt. And stop bothering the old man. He's got memory problems. Says all kinds of crazy things. Don't believe any of it. Ghost said nothing. Just sat in his wheelchair, smiling that peaceful smile. Maya followed Kane back toward Building 7. But before she rounded the corner, she looked back. Ghost raised one weathered hand, made a small gesture, a sign. The same sign her father used to make when she was a child, when he wanted to tell her something was dangerous, something she needed to investigate quietly. Trust no one. Orientation was a nightmare. 12 handlers in training gathered in the main briefing room. 11 men, 1 Maya. Kane stood at the front, pointer in hand, projecting slides onto a whitewashed wall. Military working dogs are force multipliers. They detect explosives, track enemy combatants, provide tactical superiority in close-quarters combat. Your job is to maintain these weapon systems, not to befriend them, not to coddle them, to maintain them. Maya's hand went up. Kane ignored it. These animals respond to authority, dominance. You show weakness, they will exploit it. You show fear, they will attack. Control is everything. Questions? Maya's hand stayed up. Kane sighed. Chen. Sir, modern canine training protocols emphasize partnership over dominance. Studies show that dogs trained through positive reinforcement perform better, respond faster, and show fewer behavioral problems than, "Thank you, Professor." Kane's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Perhaps you'd like to teach the class, since you clearly know more than someone with 28 years of experience." Snickers around the room. Harker's voice cut through. "Let her try, Sergeant. I'd love to see it." Kane smiled. "You know what? That's a good idea." He turned to Maya. "Tomorrow morning, 0600, you're going to demonstrate your methods. You'll enter Shadow's enclosure alone and show us how partnership works with a dog that's killed one handler and hospitalized 4 more." The room went silent. "Sir, that's—" Torres started. "That's what Staff Sergeant—" Torres closed her mouth. She knew better. Kane turned back to Maya. "You want to prove your father's methods work? Here's your chance. Succeed and maybe I'll listen to your theories. Fail." He let the word hang. "Well, let's just say we'll need to update the memorial garden." Laughter erupted, harsh, cruel. Harker's voice loudest of all. Maya said nothing, but inside something cold and hard solidified in her chest. They wanted to kill her, just like they'd killed Henderson, just like they'd killed her parents. They were going to put her in that cage with Shadow and watch her die, unless she found a way to survive. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the bass settling into darkness. Snoring from other bunks, the distant bark of dogs, footsteps of guards on patrol. At 0200, she slipped out of bed. The compound was quiet as she made her way to Building 7. No guards on this section. No cameras that she could see. Security was surprisingly lax for a military canine facility. Or maybe they just weren't worried about anyone sneaking in. They should have been. Maya picked the lock on the maintenance entrance in under 30 seconds, a skill her father had taught her. One of many. The kennels were dark, but not silent. Dogs stirred as she passed, some growling, some whining. She whispered to each one. Soft words, Vietnamese words, the language her mother had used. "Yan now. Quiet now. I'm not here to hurt you." The dogs settled. She reached Shadow's cage at the end of the corridor. The black dog was awake. Of course he was, watching her approach with that single pale eye. Maya knelt in front of the bars. "Hi, boy." Shadow didn't move. "You remember me, don't you? I was just a kid when you last saw me. 8 years old. You were just a puppy." She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small photograph. "See, that's us. You, me, Mom, Dad. Before everything went wrong." She pressed the photo against the bars. Shadow's nose twitched. He leaned forward, sniffing. And then slowly, his tail moved. Just once. Just barely. Maya felt tears sting her eyes. "You do remember. God, you do remember." She sat back on her heels. "They're going to put me in there with you tomorrow. They want you to kill me like you killed Henderson, like they say you killed Dad and Mom." She wiped her eyes. "But you didn't kill them, did you? You saw what happened. You know who the real killers are." Shadow whined, soft, almost human. "I need you to trust me, boy. I know they hurt you. I know they starved you and beat you and turned you into this monster that everyone fears. But that's not who you are. I know who you are. You're Sierra 77, your Chen team, your family." She pressed her hand against the bars. "And tomorrow, when they put me in there with you, I need you to remember that. I need you to remember who you are, who we are." Shadow stood, walked slowly toward the bars. His nose touched her fingers. Cold, wet, familiar. Maya closed her eyes. "Trust me, boy. And I'll trust you. We're going to get through this together, and then we're going to find out what really happened. We're going to make them pay. Shadow licked her fingers, and somewhere in the darkness a camera they hadn't bothered to disable recorded everything. Dawn came too fast. Maya stood at the entrance to Shadow's enclosure watching the soldiers gather. 12 handlers in training, plus Kane and his senior staff, plus Harker and his crew, phones out, ready to record. Word had spread. The little girl was going to die today. "Last chance, Chen," Kane's voice carried across the concrete. "You can walk away right now. No shame in admitting you're not ready." "I'm ready." "Are you? Because that dog in there hasn't eaten in 3 days. I wanted to make sure he was hungry." Kane smiled. "Motivated." Murmurs from the crowd. Even some of Kane's people looked uncomfortable. Torres stepped forward. "Sir, this violates about 6 different regulations. This is a training exercise, Staff Sergeant. The regulations allow for realistic conditions, and combat is realistic." Kane turned back to Maya. "Whenever you're ready." Maya looked at the cage. Shadow was pacing now, back and forth, back and forth. His muscles rippled under that black coat. His single eye tracked her every movement. "Trust me," she thought. "Remember who I am." She stepped toward the gate. "Wait." Harker pushed through the crowd. She should go in with nothing. No weapons, no equipment, no tricks. Just her and the dog. Fair fight. She wasn't going to have weapons anyway, Specialist. "I mean nothing. Empty pockets. No treats, no tools, no—" "Fine." Maya pulled out her pockets. "Empty." "Satisfied?" Harker grinned. "Now I am. Die now, bitch." Maya walked to the gate. Kane unlocked it. The metal squealed as it swung open. Inside, Shadow stopped pacing. "Enter the enclosure, Chen, and may God have mercy on your soul." Maya stepped inside. The gate slammed shut behind her, and Shadow launched. The world narrowed to a single point of focus. 90 pounds of starved, muscle-black fur and bared teeth covering 20 feet in 3 heartbeats. Maya could see the scars on his muzzle, the emptiness in his good eye, the foam flecking his jaws. This was an animal pushed past breaking, an animal with nothing left to lose. She didn't run. She dropped. Knees hitting concrete. Head-bowing hands open at her sides. Complete submission, the posture her father had taught her before she could walk. The pose that said, "I am not a threat. I am not prey. I am pack." Shadow's jaws snapped shut 3 inches from her face. Hot breath washed over her. The smell of hunger and rage and something else. Something buried beneath years of abuse, recognition. "Yen now, Shadow." Maya's voice came out steady despite her pounding heart. "Emla Jadin. Emla Pack." Quiet now. "I am family. I am pack." Shadow froze. Outside the cage, silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The dog's nose twitched, testing her scent, searching for something, finding it. "Mi vabo da dayem," Maya whispered. "Em nyochong ehom dachong." Mom and Dad taught me. Do you remember? Do you remember that day? Shadow whined. His body trembled. The aggression was still there, coiled in his muscles, ready to explode. But something else was fighting it. Something older. Something deeper. Memory. "Tenthat ko emla zi?" Maya asked softly. "Emla I, trukhi ha lamdu nevoyem." "What is your real name? Who were you before they did this to you?" Shadow sat, his tail tucked between his legs, his head lowered, and slowly, painfully, he crawled toward Maya. Not attacking. Approaching. Jesus Christ, someone whispered outside the cage. Shadow reached Maya, pressed his scarred muzzle against her knee, and whined again, long and low, the sound of an animal begging for something it had forgotten how to ask for. Love. Maya raised her hand slowly, placed it on Shadow's head. Good boy, she said. Good boy. I've got you now. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore. Shadow collapsed against her. 85 pounds of weaponized dog reduced to a trembling mess in the arms of a 20-year-old girl who weighed less than he did. 47 minutes. That's how long they stayed like that. Maya on her knees. Shadow pressed against her, neither moving, neither speaking. Around them the world had stopped making sense. Cain entered the cage himself. He walked slowly, carefully, watching Shadow for any sign of aggression. The dog didn't even look at him, just stayed pressed against Maya, eyes closed. How the hell did you do that? Maya looked up at Cain. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. I didn't do anything, sir. I just reminded him who he was. Bullshit. That dog has attacked every handler we've put him with. You walk in, and he rolls over like a puppy. What's the trick? No trick. Maya stood slowly. Shadow rose with her, staying close to her leg. Shadow was trained by partnership methods, by handlers who treated him as a teammate, not a weapon. When he attacks people, he's not being aggressive. He's defending himself, against the people who hurt him. Cain's face darkened. Nobody hurt that dog. Then why does he have scars from a shock collar? Why is he underweight? Why does he flinch when you raise your hand? Maya's voice rose. What did you do to him? Watch your tone, petty officer. What did you do to my parents' dog? The words hung in the air. Cain stared at her. The silence stretched. Finally, he turned to the gathered soldiers. Orientation is complete. Chen has been assigned Shadow as her canine partner. Dismissed. Nobody moved. I said dismissed. The crowd dispersed slowly, but Maya caught the looks, the whispers, the way people glanced at her and Shadow with something that might have been fear. Torres caught her eye across the compound, gave her a small nod. Be careful, that nod said. You just made things worse. Maya nodded back. She knew. But she couldn't stop now. Not when she was so close. That night, Ghost found her in the memorial garden. You survived. Maya looked up from the bronze plaques. For now, more than survived. Ghost wheeled himself closer. You did something nobody's done in 12 years. You reached that dog. You brought him back. He was never gone. He was just waiting. Waiting for someone who remembered. Ghost was quiet for a moment. Your parents, they discovered something, didn't they, before they died? Yes. You know what it was. Maya reached into her pocket, pulled out a small USB drive. I found this in my father's journal, hidden compartment in the spine. He must have put it there before. She couldn't finish the sentence. Ghost took the drive, turned it over in his weathered hands. Have you looked at what's on it? Not yet. I don't have access to a secure terminal. I do. Ghost looked up at her. In my quarters. Old computer, but it's clean. No network connection. Whatever's on this drive, we can look at it without anyone knowing. Maya hesitated. Torres said I shouldn't trust anyone. Torres is smart. You shouldn't. Ghost smiled sadly. But your father trusted me with his life for 15 years. Your mother trusted me to train her. And that dog in there, he nodded toward the kennels, Shadow trusted me to be the one who helped raise him. He held out the drive. I can't force you to trust me, Maya. But I can tell you this, whatever's on that drive, whatever your parents died for, I want to know too. I've spent 12 years wondering what really happened. 12 years watching good people disappear. 12 years pretending I didn't see anything. His voice cracked. I'm 70 years old. I've got maybe 5-6 years left if I'm lucky, and I don't want to die without knowing the truth, without making it right. Maya looked at the old man, at the scars on his hands, the medals fading on his chest, the weight of guilt in his eyes. She took back the drive. Tomorrow night, your quarters, midnight. Ghost nodded. I'll be waiting. He started to wheel himself away, then stopped. Maya. Yes. Shadow. That's not his real name, not the name your parents gave him. I know. His real name was Faithful. Ghost's voice was barely a whisper. They named him Faithful because that's what he was, the most loyal dog anyone had ever seen. He looked toward the kennels. 12 years they've been trying to beat that loyalty out of him. 12 years of starvation and shock collars and isolation. And in 47 minutes, you brought it all back. He shook his head. Your parents would be proud. He wheeled himself into the darkness. Maya stood alone in the Memorial Garden USB drive clutched in her hand. Tomorrow night she would find out what her parents died for. Tomorrow night, everything would change. But tonight, she had one more thing to do at Sum. The kennels were quiet when Maya entered. Shadow was waiting for her, standing at the front of his cage tail, wagging slowly. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. The dog pressed against her, immediately seeking contact. Hey boy, hey Faithful. The tail wagged faster. Maya sat down with her back against the wall. Shadow curled up beside her head in her lap. I'm going to find out what happened, she said softly. I'm going to find out who killed Mom and Dad. And I'm going to make them pay. Shadow looked up at her. His good eye caught the faint light filtering through the window. But I need you to help me. I need you to show me who they are. You saw them, didn't you? You were there when it happened. You know who the killers are. Shadow whined. When the time comes, I need you to remember. I need you to show me who to trust and who to fear. She stroked his scarred head. Can you do that, boy? Can you help me finish what they started? Shadow licked her hand, and in that moment Maya Chen made a promise. To her parents. To Henderson. To every name on that memorial wall. To the dog curled up beside her, who had waited 12 years for someone to remember his name. She would find the truth. She would expose the killers. She would burn this entire conspiracy to the ground, no matter what it cost her. Outside Building 7. Hidden in shadows, a figure watched the young woman through night vision binoculars. Master Sergeant Victor Kane lowered the optics slowly. Sir, one of his men stepped closer. What do you want us to do? Kane was quiet for a long moment. Nothing. Yet. But I know what she is. Kane's voice was ice. I know exactly what she is. Her father was the same way. Stubborn, curious, dangerous. He turned away from the kennels. Get me Colonel Pierce. Secure line. Tell him we have a problem. What kind of problem, sir? Kane looked back at Building Bevan. At the girl and the dog who should have torn her apart. The kind that needs to be eliminated. Permanently. He walked into the darkness, and somewhere in the distance a dog howled. A warning. A promise. A declaration of war. The midnight air hung heavy with secrets, as Maya slipped through the compound toward Ghost's quarters. Shadow moved beside her, like a second shadow, silent alert, every muscle tuned to the darkness around them. Ghost was waiting at his door. "Anyone follow you?" "No." "You sure?" Shadow's ears swiveled toward the kennels. Calm. No threat detected. "I'm sure." Ghost wheeled himself backward, letting them in. The room was small, cluttered with decades of military service. Photographs lined every wall. Young men in uniforms. Dogs in tactical gear. A life measured in deployments and losses. Maya pulled out the USB drive. "Let's see what they died for." Ghost's ancient laptop hummed to life. Maya inserted the drive. A password prompt appeared. "Damn." "Try their anniversary," Ghost said quietly. "July 14th, 2003. Maya typed. 07114203. Access denied. "Your birthday, March 3rd, 2005. 303205. Access denied." Maya stared at the screen. 2 more attempts before lockout. Her parents had hidden this drive for a reason. They'd chosen a password only someone who truly knew them could guess. She closed her eyes. Remembered. Her father's voice teaching her Vietnamese words. Her mother's laugh when Faithful had learned his first trick. The day they'd brought him home. A tiny puppy with oversized paws and eyes full of trust. "What day did you get Shadow?" she asked Ghost. "September 19th, 2009. Your parents picked him out of a litter of 12. Said he was special. Said he chose them." Maya typed. 2009. The screen flickered. 847 files cascaded across the display. "Mother of God," Ghost whispered. Maya leaned forward, scrolling through folder after folder. Photographs, transaction records, GPS coordinates, bank statements from offshore accounts, and names. Dozens of names. They documented everything. Ghost pointed at a folder labeled Operation Fenrir. "Open that one." Maya clicked. A video file began playing. Her father's face filled the screen, younger than she remembered. Tired. Scared. "If you're watching this, I'm dead. Lee is dead. They killed us because we found out the truth." David Chen's voice cracked. "For the past 3 years, high-ranking officers at Fort Braxton have been running a smuggling operation through the K-9 program. Military dogs are being used to transport diamonds, weapons components, and classified intelligence across borders. Dogs that are reported killed in combat are actually being sold to foreign buyers. The money flows through a network of shell companies to accounts in the Cayman Islands." Maya's hands trembled. "The operation is led by Colonel Raymond Pierce. His second-in-command is Master Sergeant Victor Kane. There are at least 15 other participants, including handlers, logistics officers, and 2 members of base security." David Chen looked directly into the camera. "Maya, if you're the one watching this, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. But I need you to finish what we started. The evidence is all here. Names, dates, account numbers, everything. Take it to NCIS. Not anyone on base. Not anyone in the local command structure. Go to the San Diego field office. Ask for Agent Diane Foster. She was investigating Pierce before they shut her down. She'll know what to do." His voice broke. "I love you, baby girl. Your mother loves you. We always will. And whatever happens, remember." The video cut to static. Maya sat frozen. Ghost reached over and gripped her shoulder. "Breathe, child. Breathe." They knew. Maya's voice was hollow. They knew they were going to die. They recorded this knowing they wouldn't survive. They recorded it so you could survive, so you could finish it. Maya looked at the old man. Tears streamed down her face, but her jaw was set. "Colonel Pierce." He's the one who gave the order. Pierce has run this base for 15 years. Nothing happens here without his approval. Nothing. Kane works for him. Kane does Pierce's dirty work. Always has. Ghost's face darkened. I suspected something was wrong for years. Handlers dying in accidents. Dogs disappearing. But I never had proof. Your parents found the proof, and it cost them everything. Maya wiped her eyes. Agent Diane Foster, San Diego Field Office. That's 300 miles from here, and the moment you leave base, Kane will know. He's got people everywhere. Then I won't leave base. Maya pulled up another file. Not until I have more. Current evidence. Proof that the operation is still running. Something they can't dismiss as old accusations from dead people. Ghost studied her face. What are you thinking? My father said dogs were used to transport contraband. Shadow was their dog. He was there for 3 years running missions crossing borders. Maya looked at the black dog lying at her feet. If the operation is still active, Shadow might be able to lead me to it. That's dangerous. So is doing nothing. Maya stood. Kane already wants me dead. Might as well give him a real reason. She copied the files to a second drive, handed the original to Ghost. Hide this. Somewhere they'll never find it. If anything happens to me, I'll make sure it gets to Foster. Ghost took the drive with shaking hands. But Maya, be careful. Your parents were careful too. And they still... I know. Maya knelt beside his wheelchair. But they didn't have Shadow. They didn't have someone who could show them exactly who the wolves are. She looked at the dog. Shadow looked back. His single eye gleamed with something that might have been understanding. Trust the dogs, Maya said softly. Dad always said that. Trust the dogs. They know the truth. She walked to the door. Maya. She turned. Ghost's face was carved with grief and determination. Make them pay. For David. For Lee. For all of them. Make them pay. I will. She disappeared into the night. Ghost sat alone in the darkness for a long time. Then he reached for his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in 12 years. It's Wheeler. We need to talk. About Pierce. About everything. The line crackled. I know, the voice on the other end said. I've been waiting. Maya spent the next week watching. During training exercises, she let Shadow off-leash more than regulations allowed. The dog roamed the compound, sniffing, testing, remembering, and Maya watched his reactions. When they passed the logistics building, Shadow's hackles rose. When Petty Officer First Class Wyatt Sheffield walked by, Shadow growled. When Captain Marcus Webb from base security stopped to chat, Shadow positioned himself between Maya and the captain, teeth bared. Every reaction told a story. Every growl was an accusation. Torres found her in the mess hall on day 4. You're making people nervous. Good. Kane's watching you. Harker's watching you. Half the base is talking about the girl who tamed the demon dog. Torres sat across from her. Whatever you're doing, you need to be more careful. I'm just training. Bullshit. Torres lowered her voice. Henderson did the same thing before he died. Walked around with his dog watching people taking mental notes. 3 days later, they put him in Shadow's cage. They already tried that with me. And next time they'll use something more permanent. Torres leaned closer. I don't know what you found. I don't want to know. But if you're going to move against Kane, you need to do it fast. Before he moves against you. Maya studied the staff sergeant's face. Why do you care? Because Henderson was my friend. Because I'm tired of watching good people die. Because... Torres stopped. Her eyes glistened. Because my brother was a handler here. 6 years ago. Training accident. Sound familiar? Maya's breath caught. Staff Sergeant Marcus Torres. You've seen his name. He's in my father's files, one of 17 handlers who died under suspicious circumstances. Torres closed her eyes. When she opened them, the tears were gone, replaced by cold, hard fury. What do you need? Access to the logistics manifests, shipment schedules, anything that shows what's coming in and out of this base. That's Captain Webb's department. I know, and Shadow tried to bite him yesterday, which means Webb is part of it. Torres was quiet for a moment. My bunkmate works in logistics. Junior position doesn't know anything about the operation, but she's got access to the filing systems. I can get you in tonight, after lights out. Kane's people will be watching. Not all of them. Torres smiled grimly. Harker's got duty on the west perimeter until 200. Kane plays poker every Thursday night with the senior staff. If we move fast, You think I'm letting you do this alone? Torres stood. 2,300 hours. Meet me behind the motor pool. Don't bring the dog. He's too recognizable. She walked away. Maya looked down at Shadow, lying under the table. Sorry, boy. Tonight you stay home. Shadow whined, but he understood. The logistics building was dark when Maya and Torres slipped through the side entrance. Filing room is down the hall, third door on the left. Torres handed Maya a flashlight. You've got 20 minutes. I'll keep watch. Maya moved quickly through the shadowed corridor. The filing room was locked, but the lock was old. 30 seconds with a tension wrench, and it clicked open. Inside rows of metal cabinets stretched into darkness. Maya started searching. Shipping manifests, cargo inventories, transport logs. Most of it was routine food supplies, equipment requisitions, veterinary supplies for the dogs. Then she found it. A separate filing cabinet, locked with a different key. Newer, hidden behind a stack of boxes. Maya picked that lock too. Inside were files marked with a small symbol. A wolf's head. Fenrir. She pulled out the first folder, flipped through the pages. Shipment dates, cargo weights, destination coordinates, and attached to each manifest a K9 deployment order. The dogs weren't just transporting contraband. They were the transport. Specialized harnesses with hidden compartments, surgically implanted containers, methods that would never trigger standard security checks. Jesus Christ. She photographed everything, page after page, proof that the operation was still active, that shipments had gone out as recently as last week, that Colonel Pierce had personally signed off on every single one. A sound from the corridor. Footsteps. Maya froze. Torres's voice, sharp with panic. Who the hell are you? This area is restricted. A dull thump. Silence. Maya shoved the files back into the cabinet, killed her flashlight, and pressed herself against the wall. The door swung open. Light flooded the room. Ryan Harker stood in the doorway, taser in hand, grinning. Hey there, China doll. Working late? Maya's mind raced. Where's Torres? Taking a nap in the hallway. Don't worry, she'll wake up with nothing worse than a headache. Harker stepped closer. You, on the other hand, Harker, think about what you're doing. I am thinking. I'm thinking Kane's going to be real happy when I bring him the little spy who's been snooping through classified files. He raised the taser. Now we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. Maya calculated distances. Too far to reach the door. Too far to rush him before he fired. What's Kane paying you? Enough. Harker's grin widened. But this isn't about money. This is about you. Walking in here like you own the place, making me look like an idiot in front of everyone. You know how long it took me to get assigned to this unit? Let me guess. Daddy made some calls. Harker's face darkened. Shut up. What's wrong? Truth hurt. I said shut up. He stepped closer, taser trembling slightly. You think you're so smart. You think because you tamed that psycho dog, you're special. You're nothing. You're just another body waiting to happen. Like Henderson. The question landed like a punch. Yeah. Harker's voice was different now, harder. Like Henderson, like your parents, like everyone else who stuck their nose where it didn't belong. You know about my parents. Everyone knows about your parents. David and Lee Chen, the golden couple, best handlers the program ever produced. His lip curled. Until they decided to be heroes. Until they started asking questions. And Kane killed them. Kane did what Pierce ordered, just like he always does, just like I do. You're proud of that following orders from murderers. I'm proud of surviving. Harker raised the taser higher. Something you won't be doing much longer. Now drop the phone and get on your knees. Maya didn't move. I said. A dark shape exploded through the window behind Harker. 90 pounds of black fur and fury hit him from behind, driving him face first into the floor. The taser clattered away. Harker screamed as teeth found his shoulder. Shadow. Maya scrambled forward, grabbed the taser, and pressed it against Harker's neck. Call him off, call him off. Shadow, hold. The dog stopped biting, but he didn't let go. His jaws stayed clamped on Harker's shoulder, growling low and continuous. Good boy. Maya knelt beside Harker's head. Now, you're going to answer some questions. And for every answer I don't like, I'm going to let Shadow take another bite. Understand? Harker whimpered. Understand. Yes, yes, I understand. Good. First question. Where's the next shipment going? I don't. Shadow's jaws tightened. Harker screamed. Okay. There's a airstrip 30 miles north. Old abandoned military facility. Shipment goes out tomorrow night. Who's receiving it? I don't know the buyers. Pierce handles that. I just help load the dogs. How many people are involved? 15, maybe 20. I don't know everyone. Kane keeps it compartmentalized. Maya leaned closer. Last question. Who pulled the trigger on my parents? Harker's face went pale. Who? Pulled. The trigger. I can't. Shadow. Kane. Harker's voice cracked. It was Kane. He shot them himself. Pierce gave the order, but Kane pulled the trigger. I wasn't there. I swear I just heard them talking about it. Maya sat back. 12 years. 12 years of wondering. Of nightmares. Of staring at that photograph and asking why. Now she knew. Shadow. Release. The dog let go of Harker's shoulder. Blood soaked through his uniform. You're going to the infirmary, Maya said quietly. You're going to tell them you got attacked during a training exercise. You're not going to say anything about me, or Torres, or this conversation, because if you do... She leaned close to his ear. Shadow knows your scent now. He will find you. Wherever you go, whatever you do, he will find you. And next time I won't tell him to stop. Harker nodded frantically. Good boy. Maya stood. Shadow, come. She collected Torres from the hallway. The staff sergeant was groggy but conscious. What happened? I'll explain later. Can you walk? Yeah, I think so. They slipped out into the night. Behind them, Harker lay bleeding on the filing room floor, crying. Maya found Kane waiting for her outside the barracks. He stood alone in the darkness, arms crossed, face unreadable. Interesting night, Chen. Maya's hand went to the phone in her pocket. The evidence. The photographs. Just training, sir? At midnight in the logistics building. She said nothing. Kane stepped closer. Shadow positioned himself between them, hackles raised. You know your father had the same problem. Couldn't leave well enough alone. Always asking questions. Always pushing. Kane's voice was soft, almost gentle. I tried to warn him, told him some doors shouldn't be opened, but he didn't listen. He found out what you were doing. He found out what he was never supposed to know, and when he wouldn't back down, Kane shrugged. Actions have consequences. You killed him, you and Pierce. I followed orders, just like I've always done, just like soldiers do. Kane's eyes glittered in the darkness. The real question is, what are you going to do now? Run to NCIS. Try to expose us. Your father tried that too. You see how well it worked out for him. Maya's jaw tightened. I'm not my father. No, you're worse. You're a 20-year-old girl with a hero complex and a dog that should have been put down years ago. Kane leaned closer. You think you can bring us down? Pierce has been running this operation for 15 years. 15 years of clean records, spotless inspections, friends in very high places. You're nothing to him. Less than nothing. Then why are you warning me? Kane paused. Because your father was the best handler I ever worked with. Because your mother was one of the finest soldiers I ever knew. Because even after everything... He stopped. Swallowed. I didn't want to kill them. I tried to give them a way out. They wouldn't take it. Because they had integrity. Something you wouldn't understand. Integrity. Kane laughed bitterly. Integrity doesn't pay college tuition. It doesn't cover medical bills. It doesn't give your kids a better life than you had. He shook his head. You're young. You don't understand how the world works. Let me explain. He stepped back. Tomorrow night there's a shipment leaving from the old Henderson airstrip, 30 miles north. If you're smart, you'll forget everything you learned tonight. Forget your parents. Forget Henderson. Forget all of it. Take your dog, request a transfer, and disappear. Start over somewhere far away from here. And if I don't, Kane's face hardened, then tomorrow night will be your last night alive. And this time there won't be any accidents. There won't be any plausible deniability. Pierce is done playing games. He's ordered your elimination. You and Torres both. Maya's blood went cold. Torres. She was seen with you tonight. That's enough. Kane turned to go. You've got until tomorrow. Make your choice. Kane. He stopped. Why are you telling me this? If you're really Pierce's man, why warn me at all? Kane was silent for a long moment. Because I've got 2 daughters about your age. Because I see them when I look at you. And because... His voice cracked. Because I'm tired. 15 years of blood and lies and bodies. It wears on a man. Even a man like me. He walked into the darkness. Make the right choice, Chen. For once in this godforsaken place, let someone make the right choice. He was gone. Maya stood frozen, heart pounding, mind racing. Tomorrow night. The airstrip. Pierce would be there personally. Kane had said so without saying it. The mastermind himself overseeing the shipment. If she could get evidence of an active crime. If she could catch them in the act. If she could contact Agent Foster before her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Agent Diane Foster, NCIS San Diego. Your father's files reached me 12 years ago. I've been waiting for someone to pick up where he left off. I'm en route to Fort Braxton. ETA 24 hours. Don't do anything stupid before I get there. Maya stared at the screen. Ghost. The old man had contacted Foster. He'd sent the files. Help was coming. But would it come in time? She looked at Shadow. The dog looked back. Tomorrow night. The airstrip. Pierce. Kane. The end of everything. One way or another. Maya walked into the barracks. Sleep didn't come. Dawn broke over Fort Braxton with the color of blood. Maya found Torres in the motor pool checking vehicles for the morning training rotation. "We need to talk." Torres looked up. Her face was still pale from last night. "Kane came to see me." "Me too. He told me about tomorrow night, the shipment, the airstrip, and the elimination order." Torres nodded. "He said we have until tomorrow to run." "Are you going to—" Torres laughed bitterly. "And go where my whole career is here. My brother's grave is here. Everything I've worked for." She shook her head. "Besides, running didn't help your parents. It won't help us either." "Then we fight. Against Pierce, against the entire operation." Torres looked at her like she was crazy. "We're two junior officers with a camera phone and a scary dog. What exactly do you think we can do? We can be witnesses. We can be evidence." Maya pulled out her phone. "I photographed the files, everything. Dates, names, account numbers. And last night I got Harker to confess. Who killed my parents? Who's been running the operation? Everything." Torres's eyes widened. "You recorded him?" "Every word." Maya smiled grimly. "But it's not enough. We need to catch them in the act, tomorrow night at the airstrip." "That's suicide." "Not if we have backup." Maya showed her the text from Agent Foster. "NCIS is coming. 24 hours. If we can stall until she gets here." "If? That's a hell of a big if." "It's the only chance we've got." Torres was quiet for a long moment. Then she straightened. "What do you need me to do?" Maya told her. And as the sun climbed higher over Fort Braxton, 2 women and a dog began preparing for war. The hours crawled by like wounded animals dragging themselves toward death. Maya spent the morning running Shadow through standard training exercises, maintaining appearances, while her mind raced through possibilities and dead ends. Every soldier who passed made her tense. Every glance in her direction felt like a threat assessment. Torres kept her distance, working her own angle. She'd promised to secure transportation and scout a route to the airstrip that avoided base security checkpoints. Ghost was monitoring Kane's movements from his quarters, using the excuse of his morning physical therapy to position himself near the command building. 3 people, 1 dog. Against an operation that had killed 17 handlers and stayed hidden for 15 years. The odds were insane. But Maya's parents had faced worse odds, and they'd gathered enough evidence to bring the whole thing down. They just hadn't lived long enough to deliver it. She would. Or she'd die trying. "Chen," Maya's head snapped up. Kane was walking toward her across the training yard, 2 soldiers flanking him. Her hand instinctively dropped to Shadow's collar. "Sir?" "Word is you've been asking questions about transport schedules, supply manifests, shipment routes." But Kane stopped 5 feet away. "Anything you want to tell me?" "Just trying to understand the operation, sir. How the K9 program fits into base logistics." "Is that so?" "Yes, sir." Kane studied her face for a long moment. Shadow growled low in his throat, positioning himself between Maya and the approaching soldiers. "Careful with that dog, Chen. Accidents happen around here, especially to people who can't control their animals." "Shadow is perfectly controlled, sir." "For now." Kane smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Colonel Pierce wants to see you. 1400 hours. Command building. Don't be late." He turned and walked away without waiting for a response. Maya watched him go, her heart hammering against her ribs. Pierce. The man who ordered her parents' murder wanted to see her face to face. This was either an opportunity or a trap. Probably both. Ghost intercepted her outside the kennels. I heard Pierce summoned you. News travels fast. Not fast enough. Ghost wheeled closer, voice dropping to a whisper. Foster called me 20 minutes ago. She's been delayed. Some kind of jurisdictional dispute with the base commander. She won't arrive until tomorrow morning at the earliest. Maya's stomach dropped. Tomorrow morning. She's trying to expedite, but the bureaucracy... The shipment leaves tonight. If Pierce is meeting with me this afternoon, it's because he knows something. He's going to move the timeline up. Ghost's weathered face went pale. Then you need to run. Right now. Get off this base before... I'm not running. Maya, my parents didn't run. They stood their ground and gathered evidence until the last possible moment. That's why we have files that can bring Pierce down. Maya's jaw tightened. If I run now, he wins. He destroys the evidence, eliminates the witnesses, and goes back to business as usual. I won't let that happen. You'll die. Then I'll die knowing I did everything I could. Maya knelt beside Ghost's wheelchair. But I need you to do something for me. The backup drive, the one with all my father's files. I need you to get it off this base. Whatever happens tonight, that evidence has to reach Foster. Ghost's eyes glistened. You're asking me to abandon you. I'm asking you to finish what my father started. Please. The old man was silent for a long moment. Then he reached out and took Maya's hand in both of his. Your father was the bravest man I ever knew. Your mother was the finest soldier I ever trained. His voice cracked. But you're something else entirely. You're the best of both of them. He released her hand. I'll get the drive to Foster. I swear on my life. Maya stood. Thank you. Don't thank me. Ghost's face hardened. Just survive. Survive and make them pay. She walked toward the command building. Shadow followed. Colonel Raymond Pierce looked exactly like his photographs. 63 years old, silver haircut, military regulation face carved from decades of command and calculation. He sat behind his desk like a king on his throne, American flag on one side, unit colors on the other. Everything about him radiated authority. Everything about him made Shadow snarl. Control your animal, petty officer. Maya tightened her grip on Shadow's leash. Sit. The dog sat, but his eyes never left Pierce. Impressive. Pierce gestured to the chair across from his desk. Please, sit. Maya sat. Shadow positioned himself at her feet, muscles coiled. I've been reading your file, Chen. Fascinating career for someone so young. Graduated top of your class at A school. Outstanding evaluations, fluent in Vietnamese and Mandarin. And now, Pierce smiled, you've accomplished something no handler in 12 years has managed. You've tamed our most dangerous asset. Shadow isn't dangerous, sir. He's been mistreated. Has he? Pierce leaned back. By whom? I think you know, sir. The smile didn't waver. I think we should stop dancing around the subject, don't you? You're here because you believe I ordered the death of your parents. You've been snooping through classified files, interrogating junior personnel, building a case. Maya's blood went cold. He knew. He knew everything. I also know you've contacted NCIS. Pierce continued casually, as if discussing the weather. Agent Foster. Persistent woman. She's been trying to investigate me for years. Never could find enough evidence. He paused. Until now. If you know all this, why am I still alive? Because I'm curious. Pierce stood, walked to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Your father was curious too. It's what made him such an excellent handler. He noticed things other people missed, asked questions other people avoided. That curiosity made him valuable. It also made him dangerous. So you killed him. I removed a threat to national security. Pierce turned to face her. Do you know what we actually move through this program, Petty Officer? Not drugs, not weapons. Intelligence. Information that keeps this country safe. Information that our official channels are too compromised to transmit. You're lying. Am I? Pierce walked closer. The world isn't black and white, Chen. Sometimes protecting America requires methods that wouldn't survive congressional oversight. Sometimes patriots have to operate in the shadows. Patriots don't murder their own people. Your father was going to expose an operation that has prevented 3 terrorist attacks and neutralized 2 foreign intelligence networks. His conscience would have cost American lives. Pierce's voice hardened. I made a choice. The same choice any commander makes in war. I sacrificed 2 soldiers to protect thousands of civilians. Maya stood so fast, her chair fell backward. You murdered my parents because they had integrity, because they wouldn't look the other way while you ran your smuggling operation. Don't you dare pretend it was patriotism. Shadow was on his feet, growling, straining against the leash. Pierce didn't flinch. Sit down, Petty Officer. No, that wasn't a request. Pierce's hand moved toward his desk, toward a small black device Maya hadn't noticed before. This is a dead man's switch. The moment I release this button, every file you've gathered, every contact you've made, every piece of evidence you think you have, it all gets transmitted to people who will make sure it disappears, along with everyone who's seen it. Maya froze. Ghost Wheeler, Staff Sergeant Torres, the young specialist you interrogated last night. All of them will die within the hour, unless you sit down and listen to what I have to say. Slowly, Maya righted her chair and sat. Better. Pierce returned to his desk, finger still on the switch. Here's what's going to happen. Tonight's shipment will proceed as scheduled. You will not interfere. Tomorrow morning you will request a transfer to another duty station, somewhere far away from here. You will forget everything you've learned, everything you've seen, everything you think you know. And if I refuse, then Wheeler dies. Torres dies. Your dog gets put down. And you, Pierce smiled, you get to join your parents. I'm sure they'd love the company. Maya's hands trembled with rage. You're a monster. I'm a patriot. There's a difference. Pierce leaned forward. Make the smart choice, Chen. Your father didn't. Don't repeat his mistake. The door opened behind her. Kane walked in. Sir, we have a problem. Torres is missing. So is Wheeler. Pierce's face darkened. What? They slipped out during the shift change. We're tracking them now, but... Maya moved. She grabbed Shadow's leash and bolted for the door. Kane reached for her, but Shadow lunged, teeth snapping at his arm. Kane stumbled backward. Maya was through the door and running before Pierce could react. Stop her! Alarms blared. Soldiers poured from buildings. Maya sprinted across the compound, Shadow racing beside her, heading for the motor pool. Torres's voice crackled through the emergency radio in her pocket. East Gate. We're at the East Gate. Move. Maya changed direction. 50 yards. 40. 30. Gunshots cracked behind her. She didn't look back. 20 yards. 10. A Humvee burst through the East Gate, Torres behind the wheel. Ghost in the passenger seat. The vehicle skidded to a stop in front of Maya. Get in! Maya dove into the back seat. Shadow launched in behind her. Torres floored the accelerator before the door was even closed. Behind them, Fort Braxton erupted in chaos. The Humvee tore down the desert road at 90 miles per hour. They'll have birds in the air within minutes, Torres shouted over the engine noise. We need to get off the main roads. Head for the airstrip, Maya yelled back. It's our only chance. That's exactly where they expect us to go. That's why we go there first, before the shipment, before Pierce can set up an ambush. Ghost twisted in his seat. She's right. If we can secure the airstrip document, the contraband before it's moved, we'll have proof that can't be destroyed. Torres cursed under her breath. But she didn't argue. The Humvee veered onto a dirt road heading north toward the mountains. Maya pulled out her phone, dialed Foster's number. 2 rings. 3. Chen, what's happening? My contacts at Braxton say the whole base just went into lockdown. Pierce knows everything. We're blown. He's got a dead man's switch that can destroy all the evidence and kill everyone involved. Where are you now? Heading to the Henderson airstrip. The shipment is supposed to leave tonight, but we're going to get there first. Secure the evidence. Document everything. Static crackled. Foster's voice came back urgent. Chen, listen to me. Do not engage directly. Pierce has resources you can't imagine. Military contacts, political connections. I don't have a choice. He's going to kill Ghost and Torres. He's going to destroy everything. Then survive until I get there. I'm commandeering a helicopter. 45 minutes. Maybe less. Just stay alive for 45 minutes. The line went dead. Maya looked at Torres. At Ghost. At Shadow panting beside her. 45 minutes. An eternity. The airstrip appeared out of the desert like a ghost from the past. Abandoned hangars, cracked concrete runways, the skeleton of what had once been a military outpost, now just rust and memories. Torres killed the engine behind one of the hangars. Silence rushed in. Now what? Maya climbed out, scanning the area. Shadow sniffed the air ears forward. We search, find where they store the contraband, document everything. And when Pierce shows up, we hide, we wait, we survive until Foster arrives. Ghost maneuvered his wheelchair out of the Humvee. There. He pointed toward a building at the far end of the runway. That used to be the supply depot. If I were smuggling something through this location, that's where I'd keep it. They moved quickly across the cracked tarmac. Shadow ranged ahead, nose to the ground, tracking scents. The supply depot door was locked, heavy padlock, industrial grade. Maya looked at Torres. Can you stand back? When Torres pulled her sidearm and shot the lock clean off, the door swung open. Inside, stacked from floor to ceiling, were crates. Dozens of them. Each one marked with military inventory numbers and destination codes. And in the corner, a kennel. 4 dogs. Belgian Malinois. All of them wearing harnesses with strange bulges along the ribcage. My God, Ghost whispered. Maya approached the nearest dog. Slowly, carefully. Her hands found the harness, located a hidden zipper. Inside the concealed compartment, diamonds. Hundreds of them, glittering in the dim light. This is it. Torres was photographing everything. This is the proof. Every single shipment right here. Check the crates, Maya ordered. Document everything. Serial numbers, destination codes, quantities. Shadow's head snapped toward the entrance. A growl rumbled from his chest. Then Maya heard it too. Vehicles. Multiple engines. Getting closer. They're here. Torres stopped photographing. How long? 2 minutes. Maybe less. Ghost's face went gray. We're trapped. Maya's mind raced. The depot had one entrance, no windows, no back door. If Pierce's men surrounded the building, they were finished. Unless... The dogs. Maya turned to the kenneled animals. We release them. All of them. What? They're trained attack dogs. They'll respond to Vietnamese commands the same way Shadow does. Maya was already opening the first kennel. When Pierce's men come through that door, they'll expect 3 people and 1 dog, not 3 people and 5 dogs. Torres stared at her. That's insane. Got a better idea. The vehicles were closer now. Maya could hear men shouting, doors slamming. Torres shook her head. Do it. Maya released the dogs one by one, speaking softly in Vietnamese, establishing herself as pack leader. The animals were confused, stressed, but they responded to her voice, to Shadow's presence, to the calm authority she projected. Good boys. Good girls. Stay close. Wait for my command. The first soldiers appeared in the doorway, and all hell broke loose. The dogs hit the assault team like a furry wave of destruction. Screams, gunshots, the sounds of bodies hitting the ground. Maya grabbed Ghost's wheelchair and pushed him behind a stack of crates while Torres laid down covering fire. Shadow stayed at Maya's side, waiting. "How many?" Maya shouted. 8, no 10. They just keep coming." A soldier broke through the chaos, rifle raised. Shadow launched before Maya could react. The man went down screaming. More men poured through the door. Too many. The dogs were fierce, but they were outnumbered. "We need to move," Ghost yelled. "There's a maintenance hatch in the floor. I remember it from the old days." Maya spotted it, 20 feet away, through open ground. "Torres, cover us." Torres emptied her magazine into the doorway. Maya grabbed Ghost and ran, dragging his wheelchair behind her. Shadow clearing a path with teeth and fury. The hatch was rusted, but not locked. Maya yanked it open. Concrete stairs descended into darkness. "Go, go!" Torres reached them just as her weapon clicked empty. She dove through the hatch. Maya lowered Ghost's wheelchair down the stairs as carefully as speed would allow. Shadow was still fighting above them. "Shadow, come." The dog broke off his attack and bounded down the stairs. Maya slammed the hatch shut behind him, found a metal bar, and wedged it through the handle. Pounding from above, voices shouting. "That won't hold them long," Torres gasped. "It doesn't need to." Maya pulled out her phone, checked the signal. 1 bar. "Foster, where are you? 15 minutes out, I can see the airstrip on approach. We're in a maintenance tunnel under the supply depot. Pierce's men are everywhere. Hold on, Chen, just hold on." The hatch buckled. Once, twice. Maya looked at her companions. Torres bleeding from a gash on her forehead. Ghost pale and trembling in his wheelchair. Shadow panting blood on his muzzle that might have been his own. 15 minutes. An eternity. "There has to be another way out," Torres said. "These old tunnels they connect to the bunker." Ghost's voice was barely audible. "Emergency bunker 200 yards west. Built during the Cold War. It has a separate exit." "Can you get us there?" "I think so. I memorized these tunnels 50 years ago. Some things you don't forget." The hatch buckled again. This time daylight showed through the gap. "Move." They plunged into the darkness. The tunnel was narrow, dark, filled with decades of dust and decay. Ghost led them from memory, calling out turns, warning of obstacles. Maya pushed his wheelchair while Torres watched their backs, empty pistol still clutched in her hands like a talisman. Behind them, sounds of pursuit, flashlights bouncing off walls, men calling to each other. "Left here," Ghost commanded. "Then straight for 50 yards. Maya turned left. The tunnel narrowed further. She could barely fit the wheelchair through. "They're gaining on us," Torres hissed. "Keep moving." The bunker door appeared in Maya's flashlight beam. Heavy steel, Cold War era, built to survive nuclear attack. "Can you open it? There's a manual release." Ghost pointed to a wheel mechanism on the right side. "Turn it counterclockwise. 3 full rotations." Torres grabbed the wheel and heaved. It groaned, protested, refused to move. "It's stuck." Maya joined her. Together they threw their weight against the mechanism. Nothing. Behind them, the flashlights were closer. She could hear individual voices now. "They're down that tunnel." Maya looked at Shadow. The dog understood. He turned and disappeared into the darkness toward the approaching soldiers. A moment later, screams echoed through the tunnels. "Shadow, no. Focus." Ghost grabbed Maya's arm. The wheel? Now. Maya and Torres strained against the mechanism. Metal groaned. Rust crumbled. 1 rotation. 2. 3. The door swung open. Shadow, come now. The dog emerged from the darkness like a demon, blood streaming from a wound on his shoulder. He launched through the door as gunfire erupted behind them. Maya slammed the door shut. Torres spun the interior wheel, sealing them in. For a moment, silence. Then Torres laughed. Hysterical, exhausted, triumphant. We made it! Holy hell, we actually made it! Ghost pointed his flashlight at a rusted ladder on the far wall. That leads to the surface. Emergency exit. Should put us out about 100 yards from the main runway. Maya looked at the ladder. Looked at Ghost's wheelchair. I can't climb that, Ghost said quietly. You'll have to leave me here. No. Maya, I said no. Maya crouched beside his wheelchair. We don't leave anyone behind. That's what my father believed. That's what I believe. Your father is dead because he wouldn't make hard choices. My father is dead because good men did nothing while evil men acted. Maya's eyes burned. I won't be one of them. I won't leave you. Ghost stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Old. Sad. Proud. Your parents would be so proud of you. You know that they'll be proud when we finish this. Together. A sound from above. Helicopter rotors, getting louder. Torres was already climbing. That's gotta be Foster. Maya looked at the ladder. Looked at Ghost. Looked at Shadow bleeding but still standing. We go together. All of us. She grabbed Ghost under the arms. He grabbed the ladder rungs. 1 step at a time. 1 impossible step at a time. They climbed toward the light. The helicopter touched down in a storm of dust and noise. Maya emerged from the bunker exit, dragging Ghost behind her, Torres supporting them both. Shadow limped at their side, leaving a trail of blood on the concrete. Agent Diane Foster jumped from the helicopter before it fully landed. 50 years old, sharp-featured, moving with the coiled energy of someone who'd been waiting 15 years for this moment. Chen. The evidence is in the supply depot, crates full of contraband dogs with hidden compartments, everything you need. Foster turned to the tactical team pouring from the helicopter. Secure that building now. More helicopters appeared on the horizon. Military markings, Pierce's reinforcements. We've got company, Torres said. Let them come. Foster smiled coldly. I've got authorization from the Secretary of Defense himself. Anyone who interferes gets arrested on federal charges. The military helicopters circled once, twice, then veered off. Maya watched them go. It's not over, she said. Pierce is still out there. Kane, all of them. We'll get them. Foster put a hand on Maya's shoulder. The evidence you gathered is irrefutable. Between your father's files and what we found here tonight, we have enough to put Pierce away for life. And Kane, the man who pulled the trigger. Foster's expression hardened. Him too, I promise. Maya looked at Shadow. The dog had collapsed at her feet, exhausted, wounded, but alive. It's okay, boy, she whispered. We did it. We finished what they started. Shadow's tail wagged weakly. Behind them, federal agents swarmed the supply depot. Evidence was being catalogued, photographed, secured. 15 years of crimes finally coming to light. But Maya couldn't celebrate. Not yet. Because somewhere in the chaos, Pierce had escaped. And until he was in handcuffs, the mission wasn't over. The call came 3 hours later. Maya was in the medical tent, watching a veterinary corpsman stitch Shadow's shoulder wound when Foster burst in. "We found him." "Pierce. He tried to cross into Mexico. Border Patrol picked him up 20 minutes ago. He's being transported to the San Diego field office as we speak." Maya stood. "And Kane?" Foster's face changed. "Kane is here, at the airstrip. He turned himself in." "What?" "He walked into our perimeter 10 minutes ago. Hands up, no weapons. Said he wanted to make a statement." Foster paused. "He asked to speak with you. Only you." Maya looked at Shadow, at Ghost resting on a cot nearby, at Torres who had refused medical treatment until everyone else was cared for. "Where is he?" Kane sat in the back of a federal transport vehicle, hands cuffed behind his back. His face was bruised, his uniform torn. He looked like a man who had finally stopped running. Maya climbed in across from him. Shadow stayed outside, watching through the window. "You wanted to talk?" Kane looked up. His eyes were empty, hollowed out. "I killed them," he said. "Your parents. I want you to hear it from me, not from a courtroom, not from a legal document, from the man who pulled the trigger." Maya's hands clenched into fists. "Pierce gave the order, but I'm the one who did it. I shot your father first, then your mother. They were—" He stopped, swallowed. They were holding hands, at the end, looking at each other, like they knew. Tears burned Maya's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Why are you telling me this? Because I'm tired." Kane's voice cracked. 15 years of hiding, 15 years of watching good people die because I was too much of a coward to stop it. Your parents, Henderson, Torres's brother, all of them. I could have said something, done something, but I didn't. So this is your confession. This is my apology." Kane met her eyes. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to know your father in the end, he didn't beg. He didn't plead. He looked at me and he said, 'My daughter will finish this.' And I laughed. I actually laughed." He shook his head. "I'm not laughing now." Maya sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood. "My father was right. I finished it. And you," she looked down at him, "you're going to spend the rest of your life remembering that a 20-year-old girl brought down everything you spent 15 years building." She opened the door. "Enjoy prison, Master Sergeant." She stepped out into the desert night. Behind her, Kane began to weep. The drive back to Fort Braxton took 3 hours. Maya sat in the back of Foster's vehicle, Shadow's head resting on her lap, watching the desert scroll past in the pre-dawn darkness. Torres dozed in the seat beside her, exhaustion finally winning over adrenaline. Ghost rode up front with Foster, the two of them speaking in low voices about evidence chains and legal procedures. Maya heard none of it. Her mind kept returning to Kane's face, the emptiness in his eyes, the crack in his voice when he described her parents' final moments. They were holding hands, at the end. She pressed her palm against Shadow's warm fur. The dog shifted, whined softly, pressed closer. "You okay back there?" Foster glanced in the rearview mirror. "No." "Fair enough." Foster returned her attention to the road. "For what it's worth, you did something today that trained federal agents have been trying to do for 15 years. You should feel proud." "I feel empty." "That's normal. Adrenaline crash. Tomorrow it'll hit you differently. Might be anger. Might be grief. Might be both." Foster paused. "Whatever it is, let yourself feel it. Don't try to be strong. You've been strong enough." Maya said nothing. The miles disappeared beneath them. Fort Braxton was unrecognizable. Federal vehicles surrounded every building. Agents moved through the compound with the organized precision of an occupying army. Soldiers who had once moved freely now stood in clusters, watched, questioned, separated into those being detained and those being released. Maya stepped out of the vehicle and felt every eye turn toward her. Some looks held curiosity, others held resentment. A few held something that might have been respect. None of it mattered. "Chen," Foster handed her a card. "This is my direct line. The legal process is going to take months, maybe years. Pierce has connections. He's going to fight this with everything he has. You'll be called to testify, probably multiple times." "I know. Do you?" Foster studied her face. "I've seen witnesses break under that kind of pressure. Defense attorneys will try to destroy your credibility. They'll dig into your past, your parents' past, anything they can use. It's going to be brutal. I watched my dog try to kill me. I ran through tunnels while men shot at us. I heard the man who murdered my parents describe how he did it." Maya's voice was flat. "I think I can handle lawyers." Foster almost smiled. "Yeah, I think you can." She climbed back into her vehicle. "Get some rest, Chen. You've earned it." The convoy pulled away. Maya stood alone in the middle of Fort Braxton's shadow, at her side, watching the sun rise over a base that would never be the same. Torres found her in the kennels an hour later. Maya was sitting on the floor of Shadow's enclosure, back against the wall, the dog curled against her side. Both of them were filthy exhausted, and neither seemed inclined to move. "You should be in medical." Shadow needed me more. Torres opened the cage door and sat down across from them. Her forehead had been stitched, her arm bandaged. She looked like she'd lost a fight with a particularly angry washing machine. "Ghost is asking for you. Is he okay? Physically?" "Yeah. The corpseman checked him out. No serious injuries." Torres paused. "But he's been crying. Won't tell anyone why. Just keeps asking for you." Maya closed her eyes. "He knew my parents his whole career. Trained them. Loved them. And he spent 12 years thinking he couldn't do anything to get them justice. He helped us tonight. That's why he's crying, because it took him 12 years to be brave enough." Maya opened her eyes. "I'll go see him. Just give me a minute." Torres nodded. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and took Maya's hand. "I never said thank you." "For what?" "For being stupid enough to try this. For being brave enough to keep going when everything fell apart. For—" Torres's voice cracked. "For giving me a chance to get justice for my brother." Maya squeezed her hand. "Marcus Torres. He was one of the 17 names in my father's files. He died trying to do the same thing we did." "I know. When this goes to trial, when they read all those names into the record, people will know what he did, what he tried to do. He won't just be another training accident." Torres wiped her eyes. "That's all I ever wanted, for someone to know the truth. Now everyone will." They sat in silence for a while, 2 women and a dog, too tired to move, too relieved to sleep. Finally, Torres stood. "Ghost, don't keep him waiting too long." "I won't." Torres left. Maya looked at Shadow. "Ready to go see an old friend, boy?" The dog's tail wagged weakly. Together they walked toward Ghost's quarters. The old man was sitting by his window, staring at nothing. His wheelchair faced the memorial garden, now crawling with federal agents documenting evidence. His hands lay folded in his lap, motionless. He didn't turn when Maya entered. "Ghost, did you see them take the bodies?" Maya froze. "What bodies?" "3. Buried in the garden. Near the oak tree, Ghost's voice was distant hollow. I always wondered why Kane insisted on maintaining that section himself. Now I know. Maya's stomach turned. Who? Henderson's predecessor, a handler named Martinez, and Ghost finally turned. His face was wet with tears. And Sergeant First Class Rebecca Cole, your mother's best friend. She disappeared 4 months after your parents died. Everyone assumed she went AWOL from grief. She was murdered. She was asking questions. Same questions your parents asked. Same questions Henderson asked. Ghost shook his head. I should have known. Should have connected the dots. But I was too scared. Too old. Too... Stop. Maya crossed the room and knelt beside his wheelchair. You helped us tonight. Without you, we'd never have found the bunker. We'd never have escaped. Foster would have arrived too late. She took his weathered hands in hers. You spent 50 years serving this country. You spent 12 years protecting my parents' memory. You don't get to hate yourself for not doing more. I could have. You did enough. Maya's voice was fierce. My father trusted you. My mother trusted you. I trust you. That has to mean something. Ghost looked at her. Really looked. You're so much like them, both of them. David's stubbornness, Lee's fire. The way you refuse to back down even when everything tells you to run. He smiled through his tears. They'd be so proud. So incredibly proud. Help me make sure they stay proud. Help me through the trial. Help me tell their story the right way. You want me to testify. I want you to tell the truth. About everything. About the program, about the handlers, about what really happened here for 15 years. Maya squeezed his hands. Can you do that? Ghost was silent for a long moment. Then he straightened in his wheelchair. Something shifted in his eyes. The tears were still there, but beneath them something harder. Something that had been buried for too long. I was in Vietnam in '68. I was in Desert Storm. I was in more black ops than I can count. His voice grew stronger. I've faced down enemy soldiers, hostile governments, and my own demons. I think I can handle a courtroom. Maya smiled. That's what I thought. She stood. Shadow pressed against Ghost's leg, and the old man reached down to scratch behind his ears. Faithful, Ghost murmured. That's your real name. Did she tell you? Shadow's tail wagged. Your parents picked that name because they said it was the most important quality in any soldier. More important than strength. More important than courage. Faithfulness. Ghost looked up at Maya. They were right. Look at what faithfulness accomplished tonight. Maya said nothing, but she understood. The first trial began 6 weeks later. Not Pierce's trial. His lawyers were still filing motions demanding delays, challenging every piece of evidence. The federal prosecutors had warned Maya it could take a year before he even saw a courtroom. No, the first trial was Captain Marcus Webb, base security chief, the man who had helped cover up 17 murders over 15 years. Maya sat in the gallery of the military tribunal Shadow, lying at her feet, and watched justice begin its slow, grinding work. The evidence was overwhelming. Webb's own communications proved his involvement. Financial records showed payments from shell companies traced back to Pierce's network. And then there were the bodies. 4 now discovered in various locations around Fort Braxton. Each one a handler who had asked the wrong questions. Webb's defense attorney tried everything, claimed the evidence was planted, claimed Webb was following orders, claimed he didn't know what he was covering up. None of it worked. The verdict came on the 3rd day, guilty on all counts, 45 years, dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of all pay and benefits. As they led Webb away in shackles, he looked at Maya. His face was twisted with hatred. "This isn't over. Pierce will walk. You watch. He'll walk, and then he'll come for you." Maya met his stare without flinching. "I'll be waiting." The second trial was Petty Officer First Class Wyatt Sheffield. Sheffield had been the logistics coordinator, the one who scheduled shipments, falsified manifests, made dogs disappear. He'd joined the operation 5 years ago, lured by money and the promise of protection. He'd never pulled a trigger, never directly killed anyone, but he'd made sure the bodies were never found. His testimony was crucial. Foster had offered him a deal, reduced sentence in exchange for full cooperation. Names, dates, methods, everything he knew about Pierce's network. Sheffield took the deal. Maya sat through every minute of his testimony, watched him describe how dogs were fitted with specialized harnesses, how the contraband was sourced and distributed, how handlers who got suspicious were identified and eliminated. When the prosecutor asked about David and Lee Chen, Sheffield broke down. They were the best. Everyone knew it. The best handlers, the best trainers, the best people. When they started asking questions, Kane tried to warn them off. They wouldn't listen. What happened next? Pierce called a meeting, just the inner circle, said the Chens had to go, said it had to look like an accident. Sheffield wiped his eyes. Kane volunteered, said he'd handle it personally, said it was better if fewer people knew the details. And you said nothing. I was scared. We were all scared. Pierce had files on everyone, evidence of things we'd done. He said if anyone talked, if anyone broke ranks, he'd burn them down and everyone they loved. So you let 2 innocent people die. Sheffield nodded miserably. I let a lot of innocent people die. The verdict came the next morning. 25 years. Dishonorable discharge. Maya felt nothing as they led him away. No satisfaction. No relief. Just the hollow knowledge that her parents' killers were finally paying. And the biggest one was still to come. 2 months later, Pierce's trial began. The courtroom was packed. Military brass, federal officials, journalists from every major outlet. This was the story everyone had been waiting for. A decorated colonel commander of a premier military installation, accused of running a criminal empire that had operated for 15 years under the government's nose. Pierce sat at the defense table in his dress uniform, medals, gleaming face composed. He looked like what he had always appeared to be, a distinguished officer, a patriot, a leader. Maya knew what he really was, a monster wearing a mask. The prosecution presented its case with surgical precision. Evidence after evidence, witness after witness, the files from Maya's father, the testimony from Sheffield and the other conspirators, the financial records, the bodies. Pierce's attorneys fought every point, challenged every witness, created doubt wherever they could. But the evidence was too strong. On the 12th day, Maya was called to testify. She walked to the stand, took the oath, and faced the man who had ordered her parents' murder. Pierce looked at her with cold, calculating eyes. She looked back without flinching. State your name for the record. Maya Chen, Petty Officer 3rd Class, United States Navy. And your relationship to this case? Colonel Pierce ordered the murder of my parents, David and Lee Chen, 12 years ago. I gathered the evidence that exposed his criminal operation, and I'm here to make sure he never hurts anyone again. The defense attorney objected. The judge sustained it. But the damage was done. Every person in that courtroom understood exactly what this young woman represented. Justice. The prosecutor walked her through everything: her childhood, her parents' deaths, her decision to join the Navy and continue their work, her arrival at Fort Braxton. Shadow. The files. The night at the airstrip. Maya answered every question clearly, calmly, without emotion. Then the defense attorney stood. Miss Chen, isn't it true that you have a personal vendetta against Colonel Pierce? I have a personal interest in justice. But your entire investigation was motivated by a desire for revenge, wasn't it, for your parents? My investigation was motivated by evidence. Evidence my father gathered before he was murdered. Evidence that proves Colonel Pierce ran a criminal operation that killed at least 17 military personnel. Evidence you claim to have found in a hidden compartment in a journal. How convenient. Objection. The prosecutor rose, badgering the witness. Sustained. Move on, counselor. The defense attorney changed tactics. Miss Chen, you're 20 years old. You've been in the Navy for less than 3 years. You have no training in criminal investigation, no legal background, no authority to conduct the kind of operation you claim to have performed. Isn't it possible that you simply saw what you wanted to see? Maya leaned forward. I saw my parents' dog try to attack the men who killed them. I saw files documenting 15 years of smuggling, murder, and corruption. I saw bodies buried in a memorial garden, and I saw a colonel try to have me killed when I got too close to the truth. She looked directly at Pierce. What I saw, counselor, was the truth. And no amount of fancy lawyering is going to make it go away. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Order, order. Maya never looked away from Pierce. And for the first time since the trial began, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear. The verdict came on the 28th day. Maya sat in the gallery shadow at her feet, Torres on one side, Ghost on the other. Every person who had helped her survive that night was here, waiting, hoping, praying. The military judge took his position. The courtroom fell silent. Colonel Raymond Pierce, this tribunal finds you guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty of smuggling, guilty of corruption, guilty of obstruction of justice, guilty on all 37 counts. The words hung in the air. Pierce's face didn't change, but his hands folded on the table in front of him had begun to tremble. For these crimes, this tribunal sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. You will be dishonorably discharged from the United States Army. All rank pay and benefits are forfeit. You will spend the remainder of your natural life contemplating the destruction you have wrought. The gavel fell. This tribunal is adjourned. Guards moved toward Pierce. He rose slowly, turned toward the gallery. His eyes found Maya. You think this is over? His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried through the silent courtroom. You think you've won? I have friends everywhere. People who believe in what I was doing. People who will remember what you took from them. Maya stood. Shadow stood with her. Let them come. Her voice was steady. I'll be waiting, and so will Faithful. Pierce stared at her for a long moment. Then the guards led him away. The courtroom erupted in noise, journalists shouting questions, officials conferring, cameras flashing. But Maya heard none of it. She knelt beside Shadow, wrapped her arms around his scarred neck, and finally, let herself cry. Kane's trial was the shortest. He pled guilty to all charges, refused a deal, refused to defend himself. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, Kane rose slowly. He was thinner than Maya remembered, grayer. The arrogance that had defined him was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like peace. I killed David and Li Chen, he said. I killed them because I was ordered to. I killed them because I was afraid. I killed them because it was easier than doing the right thing. He paused. Their daughter showed more courage in 3 weeks than I showed in 30 years. She finished what they started. She brought down an operation I helped build, and she did it without compromising who she was. He turned toward Maya. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know your parents died with their integrity intact. They never broke. They never compromised. And because of that, because of who they were, you were able to do what they couldn't. He swallowed. I hope that means something. He turned back to the judge. I'm ready for my sentence. 40 years. Dishonorable discharge. As they led him away, Cain looked at Maya one last time. She didn't nod, didn't speak, didn't offer any acknowledgement, but she held his gaze until he was gone. 2 weeks later, Harker's trial concluded. 20 years. Dishonorable discharge. He screamed as they dragged him from the courtroom, screamed that it wasn't fair, that he was just following orders, that Maya Chen had ruined his life. Maya watched him go without expression. She felt nothing. She was empty. Ghost found her in the memorial garden at sunset. The oak tree where the bodies had been buried was gone now. In its place, federal investigators had excavated everything documented, everything removed, everything. The garden looked wounded, broken, unfinished, like Maya felt. You should be celebrating, Ghost said quietly. Should I? Pierce is in prison. Cain is in prison. Every single member of the conspiracy has been brought to justice. Your parents' killers are going to spend the rest of their lives paying for what they did. He wheeled closer. That's victory, Maya. That's the ending your father dreamed of. Then why does it feel like nothing? Ghost was silent for a long moment. Because victory doesn't bring them back. Justice doesn't fill the hole they left. You spent 12 years imagining what it would feel like to make this right. Now you've made it right, and you realize... He stopped, sighed. Nothing makes it right. Nothing ever will. Maya wiped her eyes. What do I do now? You live. You honor their memory by living a life they would have been proud of. Ghost reached out and took her hand. Your father used to say the best revenge against evil is to refuse to become like it, to stay good, to stay faithful, to keep loving even when love hurts. How do I do that? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Ghost smiled sadly. But I think it starts with remembering why you fought. Not for revenge, not for justice. For them. For the people they were. For the love they gave you. Maya looked at the empty space where the oak tree had stood. They were holding hands, she said softly. When Cain killed them, they were holding hands. Because they loved each other. Even at the end. Even at the end. She stood. Shadow rose with her. I want to rebuild this garden. Plant new trees. Create a real memorial. Not just for my parents, but for all of them. Henderson. Martinez. Cole. Torres's brother. Everyone who died because they chose integrity over silence. Ghost's eyes glistened. I think that's a beautiful idea. Will you help me? Until my last breath. Maya looked at the sky. Stars were beginning to appear one by one, piercing the darkness. Then we start tomorrow. She walked back toward the barracks. Shadow at her side, Ghost following behind. Behind them, the empty garden waited, ready to be reborn. 6 months passed like water through broken fingers. Maya threw herself into the work of rebuilding. The memorial garden became her obsession. Every morning before dawn, she was there with Ghost clearing debris, planting trees, laying the foundation for something permanent. Something that would outlast all of them. Shadow never left her side. The dog had healed well. The shoulder wound left a scar that matched the one across his eye, but his spirit had returned. Maya saw it in the way he moved now. Not the coiled tension of a weapon waiting to strike, but the easy confidence of an animal who had found his pack again. His real pack. Torres transferred to the K9 training program 3 months after the trials ended. She'd requested the assignment herself, citing a desire to honor her brother's memory. The truth was simpler. She couldn't leave Maya. Not after everything they'd survived together. "You're becoming a legend, you know," Torres said one afternoon, watching Maya work with a group of newly assigned handlers. "The girl who took down a colonel, the girl who tamed the demon dog. They're already writing articles about you." "I don't want to be a legend." "Too late." Torres handed her a tablet. "Military Times. Front page. Petty Officer Chen, the 20-year-old who exposed 15 years of corruption. They're calling you the most significant whistleblower in military history." Maya pushed the tablet away. "I'm not a whistleblower. I'm just someone who finished what her parents started." "That's what makes it a good story." Torres set the tablet down. "Speaking of stories," Foster called. "The congressional hearing is scheduled for next month. They want you to testify. About what Pierce is in prison. Kane is in prison. Everyone involved has been convicted. They want to know how it happened. How an operation that big stayed hidden for 15 years. How the system failed so completely." Torres paused. "And they want recommendations. How to prevent it from happening again." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "They want me to tell them how to fix a broken system. They want you to tell them what you saw, what you learned, what you think needs to change." Shadow pressed against Maya's leg. She reached down automatically, her fingers finding the familiar territory of his scarred head. "My father spent his whole career trying to change this system from the inside. He followed the rules. He trusted the chain of command. He believed that if he just gathered enough evidence, if he just showed the right people the truth, everything would work out." Her voice hardened. "They killed him for it. So what's different now? Now they're asking. Now they're listening. Because a 20-year-old girl embarrassed them in front of the whole world." Maya finally looked at Torres. "My father was right about everything except one thing. He thought honor would protect him. It didn't. Fear protects you. Making sure the people in power are more afraid of exposure than they are of change. That's cynical. That's realistic." Torres studied her face. "You've changed." "I grew up." Maya turned back to the handlers she'd been training. "Set up the obstacle course. We're running advanced tracking exercises this afternoon." "Maya, I'll testify. I'll tell them everything. And then I'll spend the rest of my career making sure what happened to my parents never happens to anyone else." She met Torres's eyes. "That's the only legacy that matters." Torres nodded slowly. "Your parents would be proud." "I know." She walked away. Shadow followed. The congressional hearing took place on a gray Tuesday in Washington. Maya wore her dress uniform for the first time since her parents' funeral. The ribbons on her chest felt like weights. The anchors on her collar felt like chains. But she wore them anyway. Because her parents had worn them. Because they meant something. Because the uniform itself wasn't corrupt, only the people who had dishonored it. The hearing room was packed. Senators, representatives, military officials, journalists. Everyone wanted to see the young woman who had brought down a 15-year conspiracy. Maya sat at the witness table, hands folded, face composed. Shadow lay at her feet. Special permission had been granted for him to attend. After everything he'd been through, after everything he'd done, no one had the heart to deny her. The chairman called the hearing to order. Petty Officer Chen, thank you for appearing before this committee. We've reviewed the extensive documentation you provided. The evidence is comprehensive. Thank you, sir. But evidence only tells part of the story. We'd like to understand the human element. How did you know where to look? How did you know who to trust? How did a 20-year-old petty officer accomplish what professional investigators couldn't? Maya was quiet for a moment. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. I knew where to look because my father showed me. 12 years ago, he gathered evidence of the same corruption I exposed. He documented names, dates, methods. He hid that evidence in his journal, hoping someone would find it after he was gone. Her voice stayed level. I found it. I followed his trail. I finished his mission. Your father was Master Chief David Chen. Yes, sir. He and my mother, Lieutenant Commander Li Chen, were murdered by Colonel Pierce's people because they wouldn't stay silent. Murmurs rippled through the room. And you believe their deaths were covered up by military authorities? I don't believe it, sir. I know it. Kane confessed. Sheffield testified. The evidence is incontrovertible. Maya leaned forward. But that's not what you really want to know, is it? You want to know how it happened. How 17 people could die over 15 years without anyone noticing. The chairman shifted uncomfortably. That is a concern, yes. Then let me tell you. Maya's voice grew stronger. It happened because the system rewards silence. It happened because career advancement depends on not making waves. It happened because soldiers are taught to follow orders without question, and when those orders come from the wrong people, the whole structure protects itself. Are you suggesting the military is fundamentally corrupt? I'm suggesting the military is fundamentally human, and humans protect their own. The problem isn't bad apples, it's a barrel that makes apples go bad. Maya looked around the room. Pierce wasn't an aberration. He was a product of a culture that values loyalty over integrity, obedience over honesty, silence over truth. And how do we change that culture? Maya was quiet for a long moment. You start by listening to the people at the bottom, the ones who see things firsthand, the ones who are scared to speak up because they know what happens to whistleblowers. She paused. My father tried to report Pierce through proper channels. He was ignored, dismissed, and eventually eliminated. If someone had listened to him 12 years ago, 17 people would still be alive. What specifically would you recommend? Protected reporting channels that bypass the chain of command, independent investigators with real authority, mandatory rotation of personnel to prevent the kind of entrenchment that allowed Pierce to build his network. Maya's jaw tightened. And accountability. Real accountability. When officers cover up crimes, they need to face consequences, not just administrative action, criminal prosecution. The room was silent. The chairman cleared his throat. Petty Officer Chen, your testimony has been illuminating. This committee will take your recommendations under advisement. With respect, sir, I've heard that before. My father heard it too. Maya stood. The question isn't whether you'll take it under advisement. The question is whether you'll actually do something. Because there are other Pierces out there, other operations hidden in plain sight, other soldiers who see things and stay silent because they know the system will destroy them if they speak. She looked around the room one final time. I survived because I got lucky, because I had help, because the right people happened to be in the right place at the right time. Most whistleblowers don't get that lucky. They get destroyed. And as long as that's true, nothing will change. And she picked up Shadow's leash. I've said what I came to say. What you do with it is up to you. She walked out of the hearing room. The cameras followed her every step. The memorial was completed on the anniversary of her parents' death. Maya stood before it as the sun rose over Fort Braxton. The new garden was beautiful trees and flowers surrounding a granite wall engraved with 17 names. Her parents at the top: Henderson, Martinez, Cole, Torres's brother. All of them. Ghost sat in his wheelchair beside her, silver hair catching the morning light. Torres stood on her other side, dress uniform crisp. And Shadow lay at Maya's feet, exactly where he belonged. It's perfect, Ghost said softly. It's not enough. It never is. He reached out and took her hand. But it's something permanent, something that says these people mattered, that what happened to them was wrong, that someone cared enough to remember. Maya looked at the names carved in stone. David Chen, Lee Chen, her parents. I used to dream about them, she said quietly. After they died, I'd dream we were back home before everything happened. Dad teaching me how to read dogs, Mom cooking dinner, Shadow faithful running around the yard like a puppy. What do you dream about now? Maya was quiet for a long moment. I dream about them being proud, looking down from wherever they are and seeing what I've done, what we've done. She wiped her eyes. I dream that they're finally at peace. Ghost squeezed her hand. They are child. They are. The ceremony began at 0800. 200 people gathered in the memorial garden. Active duty personnel, veterans, family members of the fallen, journalists, politicians, everyone who had been touched by the story of Maya Chen and the conspiracy she exposed. Agent Foster spoke first, then the base commander, then a senator who had championed the reforms Maya recommended. Finally, it was Maya's turn. She walked to the podium on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Shadow walked beside her, steady, calm, faithful. She looked out at the crowd and began to speak. My parents taught me that dogs never lie. They can't hide their emotions, can't fake loyalty, can't pretend to love you when they don't. Her voice carried across the silent garden. Humans could learn a lot from dogs. She paused. My father was the best handler the military ever produced. My mother was one of the finest soldiers I've ever known. They loved this country. They loved the service. And they loved each other so much that when they died, they were holding hands. Tears rolled down her face, but her voice stayed strong. They were murdered because they refused to stay silent, because they believed honor mattered more than survival, because they trusted that if they just gathered enough evidence, just told the right people, the system would protect them. She looked at the names on the wall. The system didn't protect them. The system killed them, and for 12 years, the system pretended it never happened. Her voice hardened. I'm standing here today because of luck, because of help from people like Sergeant Major Wheeler and Staff Sergeant Torres, because of a dog named Faithful, who remembered who he was even when everyone tried to beat it out of him. But most of all, I'm standing here because my parents gave me something no one could take away. She touched the dog tags around her neck. Her mother's dog tags. They gave me the truth. And once you have the truth, nothing can stop you. Not threats, not violence, not the whole corrupt system trying to keep you silent. She looked directly into the cameras. There are people watching this who are in the same position my father was, who see things they know are wrong, who want to speak up but are afraid of what will happen. Her voice broke. I know that fear. I lived that fear. But I'm telling you now, the truth is stronger than fear. And there are people who will help you, people who will believe you, people who will fight alongside you. She straightened. My parents' names are on this wall. But this memorial isn't just for them. It's for everyone who chose integrity over silence. Everyone who risked everything to do the right thing. Everyone who refused to let the wolves win. She stepped back from the podium. Trust the dogs. They know the truth. The crowd erupted in applause. But Maya didn't hear it. She was looking at Shadow. The dog was sitting at perfect attention. His scarred eye caught the morning sun. His head was high. His posture was rigid. And his right paw was raised in a perfect salute. Maya's breath caught. She hadn't taught him that. No one had taught him that. Not in 12 years. But someone had taught him. A long time ago. Her parents. The crowd fell silent as they noticed. One by one, people turned to stare at the dog holding his paw in the air, saluting the woman who had avenged his original handlers. Ghost began to cry. Torres raised her own hand in salute. Then another person, and another, and another. Within seconds, every person in that garden was standing at attention saluting. Military personnel, veterans, civilians, all of them saluting a 20-year-old woman and the dog who had never stopped being faithful. Maya dropped to her knees. She wrapped her arms around Shadow's neck. The dog pressed his scarred face against hers. His tail wagged the same tail that hadn't moved in 12 years until she came back into his life. Good boy, she whispered. Good boy. They're saluting us. Can you see Mom and Dad wherever they are? They're saluting too. Shadow whined softly, and somewhere in the crowd, a bugler began to play. Taps. The mournful notes drifted across the garden over the memorial wall toward whatever heaven held. Maya stayed on her knees holding her dog, crying. But for the first time in 12 years, the tears weren't from grief. They were from something else entirely. Peace. 1 year later, Chief Petty Officer Maya Chen stood before her first class of K-9 handler trainees. 20 students. 10 men. 10 women. The most diverse class the program had ever accepted. Maya's recommendation. They looked nervous, uncertain. Exactly how she had looked walking through the gates of Fort Braxton 2 years ago. My name is Chief Chen, she began. My parents, Master Chief David Chen and Lieutenant Commander Li Chen, were the best handlers this program ever produced. They taught me everything I know about working with dogs, and now I'm going to teach you. She walked down the line, meeting each trainee's eyes. Dogs are not weapons. They're not tools. They're partners, teammates, warriors who will save your life if you respect them and earn their trust. Shadow trotted to her side, sitting at perfect heel. His black coat gleamed in the morning light. His scars told stories of battles survived. This is Shadow. His real name is Faithful. He saved my life more times than I can count. He helped me expose corruption that had been hidden for 15 years. He waited 12 years for someone to remember who he really was. She paused. My father used to say, trust the dogs. They know the truth. They know who the wolves are. Listen to them. Learn from them. Become pack with them. And they'll never let you down. The students listened with the intensity of people understanding they were receiving something precious. Maya smiled. So, let's begin. That evening, Maya walked through the memorial garden one last time. Ghost had passed away 3 months ago, peacefully, in his sleep, with a smile on his weathered face and Maya's hand in his. His name had been added to the wall, not as a victim, but as a protector. Someone who had finally found the courage to do what was right. Torres was in San Diego now, running the advanced training program. They talked every week, sometimes more. Foster had received a promotion. She was running the entire West Coast NCIS division. Twice a year she visited Fort Braxton to teach a class on identifying corruption. The Maya Chen case study, they called it. Harker had written from prison 6 months ago. A letter asking for forgiveness. Maya had read it once, then burned it. Some things couldn't be forgiven, only survived. She stopped in front of her parents' names on the wall, touched the cold granite, felt the letters beneath her fingers. David Chen. Lee Chen. I did it, she whispered. Everything you hoped for, everything you dreamed. The program is different now. The culture is changing. Your names are remembered. Your legacy lives on. Shadow pressed against her leg. And I'm okay. We're okay. The pack is strong. The sun was setting over Fort Braxton. The sky burned orange and red, painting the memorial in colors of fire. Maya thought about everything she had lost. Her parents, her childhood, the innocence that had been ripped away 12 years ago. She thought about everything she had gained. Purpose, family, a dog who had waited 12 years for her to come home. She thought about the future, the handlers she would train, the lives she would save, the legacy she would build. I love you, she said to the names on the wall. Both of you. Forever. She stepped back. Shadow stepped back with her. Together they walked toward the kennels, toward the future, toward whatever came next. Behind them, the memorial stood silent and permanent. A reminder, a warning, a promise kept. 3 years later, on the anniversary of the trials, Maya received a letter. It was from Kane. Dying, the letter said. Cancer. Had 6 months left, maybe less. He wanted to see her. One last time. To say something he should have said years ago. Maya almost threw the letter away. Almost. Instead, she drove to the federal prison where Kane was being held. She sat across from him in the visitor's room, Shadow lying at her feet, and waited. Kane looked like a skeleton. The disease had hollowed him out, left nothing but bone and regret. Thank you for coming. Say what you have to say. Kane was quiet for a long moment. I've had 3 years to think about what I did. 3 years to remember every person I hurt, every life I destroyed, every lie I told to keep the operation running. Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you? No. Kane shook his head. It's supposed to explain why I'm giving you this. He slid a folder across the table. Maya opened it. Inside were photographs, documents, names she didn't recognize, locations she'd never heard of. What is this? Pierce's network. The parts you didn't find. The parts nobody found. Kane's voice was barely a whisper. He had partners, other operations, other bases, I've spent 3 years writing down everything I remember. Every name. Every connection. Every crime. Maya stared at him. Why? Because I'm dying. Because I can't take it back. Because... His voice broke. Because your father was right. In the end, he was right. And I want to spend whatever time I have left trying to fix what I broke. Maya looked at the folder, at the evidence that could expose even more corruption, at the truth that still needed to be told. This doesn't change anything. I know. I still hate you. You should. Maya stood, picked up the folder, looked down at the dying man who had murdered her parents. I'll make sure this gets to the right people. Your testimony will matter. Your evidence will save lives. She paused. But I'll never forgive you. And when you die, I won't mourn. Kane nodded. I know. That's fair. Maya turned toward the door. Chen. She stopped. Your father. In the end. He wasn't afraid. He looked at me like... Kane's voice cracked. Like he knew you'd come. Like he knew someday someone would finish what he started. Maya didn't turn around. He was right. She walked out. She never saw Kane again. He died 6 weeks later. She didn't attend the funeral. The new investigation took 2 more years, 7 additional conspirators, 3 more bases, hundreds of millions in smuggled contraband. Maya testified at every trial. She trained new investigators. She built systems that made it harder for corruption to hide. And through it all, Shadow was there. Graying now. Slower, but still faithful. Still watching. Still protecting his handler with every breath in his body. On the day the last conviction was handed down, Maya returned to the memorial garden at Fort Braxton. She was 30 now, a decade older than when she'd first walked through those gates, a lifetime wiser. She knelt beside the granite wall, touched her parents' names one final time. It's done, she said. All of it. Every person you documented, every crime you exposed, every thread you couldn't follow. I followed them all. Shadow lay beside her, his gray muzzle resting on his paws. The program is clean now. The handlers are trained right. The dogs are treated like partners, not weapons. Everything you dreamed of. She stood. I'm transferring next month. New assignment. Training K-9 units for civilian law enforcement. Teaching them what you taught me. She looked at the sky. Your legacy continues. Through me. Through everyone I've trained. Through every dog who's treated with respect because of what we built. Shadow struggled to his feet. His joints were stiff now, his movements slow, but his eyes were still sharp. Still faithful. Maya smiled at him. Ready to go, old friend? Shadow's tail wagged. She took one last look at the memorial, at the names carved in stone, at the garden that had grown from grief into something beautiful. Then she turned and walked away. Shadow walked beside her. Behind them, the setting sun painted the granite wall in gold. The names of the fallen glowed like they were lit from within. And somewhere in whatever heaven held David and Li Chen watched their daughter walk toward her future. They were smiling. They were proud. They were finally at peace. Maya Chen walked out of Fort Braxton for the last time with Shadow at her side. She was 30 years old. Orphaned. Scarred. Unbroken. The men who told her to die. They rotted in prison, the system that killed her parents. She burned it down and built something better. the dog who was supposed to tear her apart. He spent 14 years loving her with every beat of his faithful heart. And the truth that was supposed to stay buried, it lived. In memorial stones and congressional records, in training manuals and policy reforms, in the eyes of every handler who learned that dogs were partners, not weapons, in the legacy of 2 murdered soldiers who never stopped believing that honor mattered. The truth lived, and so did Maya Chen.